Good evening and thank you so much for joining us once again on tonight's edition of Your Voice program right here on Munati Television. Today, we must inform you that we are broadcasting live from Itezi. Of course, Mark was earlier on Itezi Radio. Am I right, Mark?
Thank you. Of course, you're right. And it's quite interesting, but I must mention that as you could see, between what they call Dam 5 and Itezi, the road is very pathetic. You've seen graders suddenly have come to start clearing. And
but that's a road, especially in Itezi. That's a road that we are hearing. Government is working on that particular road. The stretch from from Mongo,
yes,
just from the junction.
From the junction.
No,
yes.
we are working on that road. We are working on that road.
No,
working on that road.
A road that has been abandoned.
When you go on the ground, it's a totally different situation.
Correct. A road that has been abandoned for over 5 years. It's a solid site. And you have just about, it should be 45 Ks that has to be done in order for the road to be done. And it's a very important economic road in the sense that so much comes from that particular area. And as I did allude to, we discussed on Itezi Radio to the effect that that particular area produces fish, that particular area produces electricity. You have Itezi Dam there. It's also surrounded by the game park, which is Kafue National Park. In other words, it's also a tourist destination.
Right.
And it's something that we really need to think about as a country. In other words, it can be part of the country's the bread basket. So, indeed, something must be done on this particular town.
Mark, we're now about 6 days more to go to the general elections. Zambia will now be voting. From the government point of view, before we even discuss matters related to elections, let's go into governance a little bit. This is a governance program. One particular issue which I would want us to look at is recently government released money for civil servants credits. I want to put it that way, you know, because government is owing civil servants money, and then government says no, those credits, bring them to us. Us will pay the people that you are owing, other than government just paying the civil servants their money, and the civil servants pay the people that they owe. Other than that, it's okay. Exactly. It's now water under the bridge, but you can refer to it. But now we are saying the president's, the government of President Edgar Lungu has now released 12 million kwacha. We can just simply say this is the eve of an election, because I mean 5 days is not a long time, but we can just simply put it like this is the eve. You know, we are already there, and the government is releasing 12 million kwacha to pay terminal benefits to Mopani Copper Mines workers at terminal benefits. Why at this stage? We are also reliably informed, Mark, the president is meeting the miners on the copper belt as we speak.
Correct. And this particular letter reads, actually it's dated 5th August, which is today. The letter is dated 5th August with reference MUZHQ stroke GS with the General Secretary M stroke AK. Now, it's written to the Superintendent Employee Relations, okay, at Mopani Copper Mines in Kitwe.
Right.
Now, it says, Dear Sir, reference, request for transport, assistance, and the release of some mine employees. Just the reference itself. Request for transport, and transport assistance, and the release of some mine employees. Now, before I even look at the content, let me say that if, for argument's sake, the opposition went and requested for transport from the mines, I don't know what would happen, because most of those may immediately be,
sacked.
No, removed from. They can be actually taken out of this country. Okay? Now, this is something that is coming at the center of politics. In other words, you are now beginning to drag the investors into politics to start financing political activities, to start really getting the vehicles from the mines meant for a particular work of mining activities, and they have a license, mining license, which prescribes what kind of activities Mopani is supposed to be doing in this country, and not politics. So a letter has been written to them, addressed to the superintendent, and this letter has been written by George S. Mumba, who is the General Secretary of Mine Workers Union of Zambia, and it reads, request for transport assistance and the release of some mine workers. In addition to transport assistance, you want to stop activities in the mines, okay, by keeping away workers or employees from their core business, which is mining, in order to improve also the revenue collection of this country. You slow down production by keeping the the workers away. Here is a person in his reasonable mind writing to the superintendent and says, reference is made to the above subject matter. The mine unions, which is MUZ, another union, NUMAW, and another union, UMUZ, another union, ZUNO, then also TAUZ, another union, that's a stroke. Right. Okay? We'll be holding a meeting with the head of state on Saturday, 7th of August 2021 in Kitwe. In this regard, permission is being sought for a general membership of Mopani Mines employees for a solidarity meeting with the head of state at Kitwe District Commissioner's office. We request management to exercise maximum flexibility on the numbers of employees to attend this important meeting. We are also further requesting Mopani management to help in the transportation and lunch for the employees that will be released. But we sincerely apologize for the short notice. Yours faithfully, for and on behalf of MUZ and other unions, George S. Mumba. This is lawlessness, Kalani.
Not only lawlessness on the part of like Mark, where they're saying, one ordering. This is not a request. This is an order. If you just analyze this statement, this is an order.
What will an investor do?
You are ordering, correct. You are ordering an investor to release transports, to release workers who are supposed to be producing, as you had earlier put it. You are also asking, in this letter they are also saying, the meeting will be held at the district commissioner's office, a civil servant hosting a political meeting. And you expect things to move in a country like that, Mark?
Yeah, this is the challenge that we have in this country, because we don't really know at what point politics begin and where they end, and when we should be producing for the country to benefit the 18 million Zambians, and when we should be playing politics. Clearly, you can see that this particular union can't represent the interests of the people. Right in the Mopani mine, workers there should also begin to know why MUZ has not represented some of their interests. It is partly because of this kind of behavior. And I think this is something that is a serious indictment. Let us see if at all, under this political umbrella we have, when the campaigns have heightened and just a few days before the elections, if any other politician goes there, you'll see what will happen. Okay? So this is what we are talking about. So it is not time. What solidarity are you talking about? Other than simply taking them to parade them as cadres there, and giving him an impression,
leadership,
and giving him an impression that all these are in support of you, at the expense of the majority Zambians that are not able to have 3 meals in a day.
We may also assume that some of these workers could just go there not at their own will, but it's more or less like a gunpoint.
Now, the investor, Kalani, has to buy lunch from miners at the expense of a child whose meal allowances have been scrapped off at the university. Parents have to be paraded to go and have lunch for solidarity at the expense of University of Zambia workers that have not gotten their gratuity. They have to go and gather at the expense of kwacha, which has lost value, when the mine is supposed to be exporting more so that to attract more forex into our economy. So this is partly the problem that is confronting this country. In my view, this is not just lawlessness. Okay? It also borders on electoral malpractice. where you are dragging the mines in order to, blackmail the employees to parade them in a choral performance as this politician is coming and having a meeting. All the meetings that the head of state is going to be having this time, they are political in nature. They are not always about it, because it's in campaign mode. The constitution of Zambia prescribes 90 days of campaigns before the elections. And so, most of the activities, if you have noticed, which are taking place, are purely of a political nature, and they are not always about it. I thought we needed to talk about this. The other thing, because you raised issues of governance before we get into our substantive topic, the other thing that is worth reflecting on has to do with the advert for the teacher recruitment for April. Now we have about 6 days before the voting day. There is nothing. So what has happened to the advert that came out? We saw people going to pay money at these professional teachers, Council of Zambia. Yes, they paid, and then so much money was paid. People had to travel miles in order to make sure that the documentation were in place. They apply for this recruitment. Why is it that we have seen nothing to date?
But Mark, if again on this one, if government was to recruit now, you'll be saying this is political.
Now this is what I'm trying to tell you, that there was an advert. To date, what is happening? Why have they not recruited up to now?
But this one
Then
says
the next point, now you're saying
if they recruited, even as of today, we'll be saying this is it's exactly what we are talking about.
So I'm telling you that between now and that day, you watch the space, see what's going to be happening in the paper. What I'm trying to say, that even the same advert came very late, because I think we provided a critique to that advert. That this is proper blackmail to unsuspecting teachers. So it's proper blackmail and political manipulation, as it were. So these are some of the things that I think we need to consider as we begin to get into the main discussion.
Right. If you're just joining us, just like we said, my name is Kalani Chima. Mark on the set also. We are coming live from Iteztezi, where we've been doing a number of other programs. Of course, we're trying to discuss, the main discussion of tonight is the deployment of soldiers on the streets of Zambia. I mean, look, if soldiers have only been deployed in Lusaka, Lusaka is Zambia. If soldiers have been deployed in Iteztezi, Iteztezi is Zambia in itself. If soldiers have been deployed in Mongo, Mongo is Zambia. Every part of this country, Zambia, it is Zambia in nature. The more reason why we say, if Kalani is Lunda and the other person out there is Kaonde, is Bemba, is what, they're all Zambians at the end of the day. So basically, each and every part of this country is Zambia, because one would argue and say the soldiers have only been deployed in Lusaka. No, Lusaka is Zambia, because there are people that have come from other places and we've all met in Lusaka for whatever businesses that is going on. Now, what is the danger of deploying soldiers at this stage? There's a little bit of uncertainty among Zambians, especially that we are going to be voting. We've never seen soldiers being deployed. We don't know what role will they be playing during the elections time. Will they also be at polling stations? What is their limitations in terms of keeping peace and so forth and so on? But Mark, let's start it from this end. Is the situation in Zambia so bad such that the head of state can give an order to say, may the soldiers go on the streets? What should necessitate the deployment of soldiers on the streets? Because last time we heard, the state was laughed at when the head of state had issued an executive order to deploy the army just to help in the fight against army worms. You remember that? The soldiers have been deployed to go and shoot army worms, when soldiers were far away from even dealing with army worms. Now we've seen the army being deployed to help with maintaining law and order, with 6 days to go to the general election.
Thank you very much. I think this is something that many Zambians have continued to debate. And in all fairness, we must first indicate that the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. In other words, in addition to the people that are at the helm of the defense services, you have the president at the top.
Right.
Okay, as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. That is the part of the roles that are prescribed for him, okay, and or the powers that are vested in the president. And in so speaking, it simply means that the president has got the power to summon the defense services. Now, of course, when the situation is out of hand, it also operates with some consultations. In a politically serious atmosphere as it is today, the first thing that we may have to ask ourselves is that, is the core justifiable, okay, under the circumstances? What is it that you think has made someone think that the Zambia Police Service is not capable of handling the situation? In my view, we have professional men and women in uniform. The biggest problem that we have today is that the president has politicized the Zambia Police
uniform.
Service. I'm coming, yes.
Yeah.
The president has politicized the Zambia Police Service to such an extent that when a trained officer is dealing with a PF member or cadre, the treatment or approach will be different from when a trained officer is dealing with a cadre from the opposition, having committed a similar offense. Using the same law, the approach will be different. In some cases, you find there will be maximum force, or the other one will be left to go. You have had instances where life is lost from a member of the opposition. Police will say, police have recorded a death of this person, and therefore they are still investigating. No suspect to be nabbed. When there is an alleged murder of one maybe from the ruling party, there will always be a suspect nabbed. Now, when you have a situation
And
where
the party involved named the
correct, and then they will talk about investigations. Meanwhile, they will make a conclusion in the same mouth, in the same breath. They will say we are investigating. In the same breath, they will also conclude that it's this one. Okay, so meaning the concept of investigation is defeated at face value. Now, let me mention that when you have a situation in the country where the law enforcer, using the same law, is saying different things in the same breath to two different people, then you have a problem. We call that the collapse in the rule of law, where you have now the rule of men. You have men, and now it is about who has the longest whip, okay, to deal with the situation and the circumstances. And I feel for the men and women in uniform, because a number of them, because they are civil servants. Now, to demonstrate how much the situation has been politicized, you look at the role that the IG has been playing, okay, on the political front, the statements that he has released, whether the words are not nice to hear. The truth be told, that if we are not willing to listen, then we are going to escalate the situation, because it is one thing to demonstrate how much power you wield, and another to hear to an obvious critique, because you may perhaps understand exactly where you are missing it. So, my point is that I don't think that the Zambia police has failed. It is because the Zambia police has been politicized. Now, someone would say the same politicizing of the police is what we may call a failure. That is one person. But I don't think so. If they are allowed to work independently, they will do the work. If they have not failed, someone has failed to ensure that police officers are operating independently. Not that they have failed. I think we need to really draw a line there. Okay? If police are allowed to do investigations independently, they do a perfect job. And in fact, if you've looked at the reports, UN reports and so on, the Zambia Police Service is one of the police services across the globe who have been, ranked very highly when it comes to investigating cases such as murder. Okay, so I can guarantee you from this juncture that I don't think that the Zambia Police has failed. Now, because we have destroyed the institution, okay, and now we believe that it doesn't seem to have enough teeth to bite, we bring in the military. When we bring in the military, we need to understand that there are two things. There are advantages and disadvantages. advantages and disadvantages can affect both the ruling party or the opposition. That is the challenge with the military, depending on the environment and the existing state of affairs.
Situation, yeah.
So, may I read something very important for purposes of our viewers who are following us? You see, the Constitution of Zambia, Article 192, establishes the defense force and its functions. Then, Article 193 establishes the National Security Services and functions. That's why the Zambia Police Service Force. So, if you could allow me to just run through this,
no, you can,
so that we understand the differences in the functions. Let me start with the defense force. Article 192(1), A up to D of the Constitution of Zambia provides, and I quote, there is established the defense force of Zambia, consisting of A, the Zambia Army, B, the Zambia Air Force, C, the Zambia National Service as an auxiliary unit, and other units as prescribed. Okay? Now, that is the establishment of the defense. The police is not part of the defense here. It's part of national security and services.
Right.
So we must track the difference there. Now, the defense force, I'm going now to the functions. The defense force shall A, preserve and defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the republic. Meaning, their primary function is to preserve and defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the republic. That map of Zambia that you learned of at school, that one, their job is to protect that territory. Even just a part of it being knocked out by Angola, they must move in and say, hey, that 500 meters you've gotten is part of... No, don't step there. That is their job. The territory, the sovereignty, that this is Zambia. Okay? This is a republic. B, to foster harmony and understanding between the Zambia Army, Zambia Air Force, an auxiliary unit, and members of society. Okay? And C, to cooperate with the state organs and state institutions in times of public emergencies and national disasters. Now, I'm interested in C. Okay? For an obvious reason, I want to read it again. The defense force, part of the functions, to cooperate with the state organs. What are the state organs? There are different state organs. I'm not talking about the three arms of government, because they are also referred to as organs. There are other state organs,
right.
DEC, all these statutory bodies, okay? To cooperate with state organs and state institutions in times of public emergencies. Where there is public emergencies. For example, a state of emergency. Or there is a public emergency where the Zambia police may have been suffocated. Okay, there are quite a number of public emergencies. Okay, and the national disasters. You just gave me an example of army wounds. Okay, or there is an earthquake. When there was cholera and all those things, when there is a national disaster, the defense force will be called upon to come and help. It's part of their roles. That's why you've seen them coming in. And it is not wrong when they come in. Now, let me mention one thing. That the Constitution is very categorical on the differences between the defense and the Zambia Police Service.
Right.
So I'll quickly run through the National Security Services and their functions. So then I'll try to draw a line. And perhaps try to speak to the idea of whether or not the circumstances would really warrant the decision that has been undertaken. Okay? Article 193 of the Constitution. 1, that is A up to 4B, and perhaps I will have to end at G.
I'm also going through the same constitution. Correct. Otherwise,
very important. They are established the following national security services. Now, these are national security services. They include number 1, the Zambia Police Service. B, the Zambia Security Intelligence Service. People know always, they know them as OP.
Correct.
Generally.
Correct.
Okay. Then C, the Zambia Correctional Service, which we use to call prisoners, Zambia prisoners. Okay. D, any other national security service as prescribed, if we can have another one. Now, let's go to the functions. The Zambia Police Service shall A, protect life and property. Have you seen the difference? From what we were reading earlier,
Disasters.
the army,
National disasters.
the army was
Territorial.
talking about preservation and defense of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country, of the republic. Okay, for them, they start direct with life. So the challenge that we've been confronted with is that life is being lost. Not because the situation is out of hand, it's because the leadership has created a situation which has now escalated into an uncontrollable situation.
Right.
Previously, you had a situation where only one party was mourning. Lawrence, gone. Mapenzi, gone. Even in some cases, police, like in the case of Mapenzi, I think there was a headline in the paper which said, "We killed Mapenzi." Except I didn't read the content of the story. That's have been the master or diggers.
The official statement I heard was that from the Inspector General then was that we did not kill Mapenzi because the police were using rubber bullets and not live ammunition, as was the case.
Yeah, but people go to those, what do you call it?
Live cartridges.
Cartridges. And no cartridges for the government. I know. So if you are going to be speaking and lying through
well,
your
it
teeth,
all goes back to what you were saying.
Yes, lying through your teeth, then you're not helping the country.
Right.
Because that's being irresponsible. Let me quickly get to this particular part. The Zama Police Service shall A, protect life and property, B, preserve peace and maintain law and order. Have you seen that? C, ensure the security of the people. The Zama Police Service shall ensure the security of the people. D, detect and prevent crime. E, uphold the Bill of Rights. F, foster and promote good relationships with the defense, force and other national security services and members of society. And D, G, perform other functions as prescribed. Now look at this one. Uphold the rights, the Bill of Rights. They are on the side of breaking the same Bill of Rights. You heard. Citizens want to campaign as prescribed by the Electoral Process Act, annexed Electoral Code of Conduct Section 1. They are stopped. So I find that the people that are supposed to enforce the law and maintain law and order were now becoming breakers of the law. So it becomes very difficult in such an environment to know who should tell the other person to keep the law. Now the issue,
just talking about that, let me not lose your thought on that particular. We'll get back to that. This is what somebody was asking me a question to say. Why is it that only the UPND president and his running mate Mtenda Lumango are the only ones who are being stopped by the police from campaigning, whereas the rest of the candidates, the President Edgar Lungu and the PF themselves, Kambwili right now is in the Northern Circuit, Mbala, Mpulungu and so forth and so on. They are busy campaigning, holding rallies. There's no single police officer who's there, who's seen there, all right, to stop them. Why then should it be that only one particular individual, it falls under what you are saying, that they are the ones breaking the law?
Correct.
So why should only Haka in the Hichlema be stopped from campaigning?
So the bottom line
Look at
is,
the tear gas we are seeing.
And in addition to what you brought out, now it is clear for the whole nation to know that the opinion polls which are being published are fake. Because if they were real, under the circumstances where all these players are allowed to campaign freely, someone would not be stopping them like this. You remember we told the viewers that we have also conducted research works which are suggesting otherwise. So the members of the public now start questioning the opinion polls. Because if your opinion polls are favoring you, why would you be panicking? Because it's a panic. So when you ask and say, why should you be the only one? He's the only threat. There's no doubt about it. The whole world knows. If you look at what's being covered in the media, it is about PF does this, UPND response. You can see others campaigning, they are doing also. But truth be told, okay? Now, let me mention one thing. That part of the responsibility of the police is to maintain law and order, which you don't find under the functions of the defense force. Now, part of it also is the uphold the Bill of Rights. Now, here is the challenge. When you have the military, when you are dealing with the military personnel, you can't quote the Constitution once they've been deployed. They have no time to reason with you or chat, get a book and so on. The Constitution says this. They don't have such thing. They don't have that.
Very true.
It is like in a military camp. Ask colleagues or relatives that are undergo training there. when they are, training is being undertaken and they are subjected to certain trainings which are in a way dehumanizing, they can't even rely on the Bill of Rights during the training.
In nature.
Correct. Which are brutal, being punished. Even when the law says none should be subjected to dehumanizing conditions. Okay? Not in the military camp during the training. It will not arise. Okay? It will not arise. Now, if that be the case, when you bring in the military, you need to understand the consequences. That you should not expect them to carry out the functions of the police as they are prescribed by the Constitution. Most likely, it will be very difficult.
Right.
Now, I heard someone says, no, we shall not do what? We shall not abuse the civilians and so on. Look, listen to this very important point.
But just abusing, just abusing. It is President Edgar Lungu. He himself was actually even asking the army not to abuse citizens.
Now,
when
yes.
he just a minute, when he deployed them again, during when he asked them to assist in enforcing COVID regulations. Now there were complaints that the army were beating people.
It happened. And you saw the problem which is there. When that happens, not even the Minister of Home Affairs said they were quiet. Because the soldiers started beating up people. I'm sure you got that one during COVID.
No wonder why I'm bringing
this one
it
I'm
up,
saying,
because
that
we covered those.
The issue of law, human rights, when you release soldiers, is put aside. When you bring those people, it's a different ballgame altogether.
Now, if that's the situation, now you bring them in an election time.
This is what I want to read to the Defense Force, which they have been taught during their training as well. They've been taught on the status of Defense Force and National Security Services. The Defense Force and National Security, both put together, shall be a subordinate to civilian authority as vested in the state organs. This is a very clear-cut principle. It is a beacon of the principles that underpin the functions of the Zambia defense system as well as the national security services. They must be subordinate to civilian authority. In other words, they must do the will of the people. We saw it in Malawi.
Yeah. Just
the will of the people.
Right.
And I think there's one time, I'm sure you saw that video, when police threw a tear gas. Then there were also defense forces.
Right.
Then it choked them. Then the defense forces started beating up.
Yeah, that was in Malawi.
Yes, beating up the police officer. Then the civilians started celebrating.
Right.
That now the person who is tear gassing us is in trouble. We also saw that in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, what responsible military personnel did, they know very well that world over, a civilian sees that military uniform. They watch TVs, they watch movies, and they saw what military personnel is associated with. Okay? Then all the civilians in Zimbabwe packed. They went into their homes.
Right.
That we have seen tankers outside moving from this direction, headed for Harare. What is this? All of them went and packed themselves, started just watching TV.
That's a fear which is also...
Now, I want to connect it to the election period in which the president has called the military. Now, that is the mindset of a civilian. Until it took garant, well-trained military personnel, he went and announced to the civilians that don't be scared.
That's a general moyo.
Yes, do not be scared. Be free. Let all activities go and do the trading. Move about. We are here to protect you. Then we saw civilians going back now celebrating and cheering the army. That is what the relationship between the army and civilians, the whole world. You can imagine. It is a job that comes with responsibility.
Right.
Where you are defending your own country as a whole.
Not defending a political party.
No.
Or a particular individual.
No. The whole country as a whole. Now, look at this very interesting thing. Here are the principles of the defense and the national security. Even if now we have diluted the Zambia Police Service because of illegal orders. And Article 190 of the Constitution, 1, A up to D. The interesting part here says the defense force and the national security services, which includes the police, shall A, be nationalistic, patriotic, okay? In other words, nationalistic, patriotic, not patriotic front, okay?
I thought so too.
Yes. Professional, disciplined, and competent. That's the first thing. That's the first principle. I'm reading about the principles relating to defense, force, and national security services. B, be non-partisan. They should be non-partisan. C, not further the interests or cause of a particular organization. And D, not act against a political interest or cause permitted in this constitution or as prescribed.
Right.
In other words,
I just want to remind the viewers, Mark, that today, if you've noticed our pattern of discussion, I remain quiet. Mark uses more of the Constitution
and I put in very few personal views
or opinionated
Yeah.
views.
But
We
more
are
reading.
quoting from what the Constitution
Correct.
says. I have my own Constitution here. Mark is quoting from the hard copy Constitution. He also has an electronic Constitution.
Yeah, this one.
Mine is here. So we are using the Constitution. Whatever we are saying here, it is based on what we have established for ourselves through the Constitution,
Correct.
which was signed even by the President
Correct.
himself in 2016, that is President Edgar Chagolungu. A Constitution actually which said you shouldn't go for 3 times standards as President 3 times, but only 2 times. But anyway, that's the Constitution that we are referring to. Mark, you can go ahead.
So now, I want to repeat one very important point here. Thank you very much for that recap. The Defense Force and National Security Services shall not act against a political interest. Okay? B, shall be non-partisan. In other words, if we are agreeing that the military, the defense force comes in, they join hands with the national security services. The principle which secures peace in every country is that they should be non-partisan. Number 2, they should not act against political interests. What does that mean? They should also uphold the law. We have seen in other countries where they've realized that politicians are not making sense in the manner in which they are doing things. Then they would say, we are temporarily taking over until the situation normalizes. Like what happened in Egypt. I think I did an analysis of the Egyptian situation. But immediately that happened because it now raises international eyebrows. So when that happened, they quickly rushed to the media, as the military personnel, and said, our takeover
It's not a coup.
is not a coup. We are trying to facilitate a transition. Okay? And they did that. In Egypt.
Right.
And the international community, including the UN, they stretched their necks and said, oh, they've taken over. What does that mean? Because when the military takes over, it also goes against the Constitution. So if they take over, it means they've set aside the Constitution.
Yeah.
Then they said, we are simply facilitating a transition so that we can get back to our Constitution.
But that's what happened
Now,
also in Zimbabwe.
Correct.
It was
Now,
the same
this is
situation.
what, in Zimbabwe, we also discussed, okay? The difference is that the Zimbabwean situation that you're talking about, we even including in Egypt, was that my view was that that was a coup. What makes it a coup is that the constitution of that particular country allowed for a 5-term and getting a leader through a democratic process of voting. But you had a situation where the leadership of an individual is being cut short. So, from my analysis, I don't want to get into those issues because information is already in public domain, and many members of the public know that I'm on record. I justified that the moment you move away from what the Constitution prescribes, you remove this person using guns, and then you say, no, we want to bring everything to normalcy, then it takes another angle. And it's no longer about the Constitution, because at that point they have actually put aside the Constitution. But it was a responsible move, which was applauded to date. which was actually applauded by many people, that it was a responsible move. If you left the situation unabated, so many lives of civilians could have been lost.
But
because
this is the more reason why we are asking this question, because in the two situations that you are quoting, like in Egypt and Zimbabwe, the political situations were all tense. They were tense, and the army just came in to normalize governance system.
Correct.
In Zimbabwe, for instance, there were a lot of fights within two camps, you know, ZANU PF and the opposition. Literally, there were wrangles.
And
the wrangles within the
military chief was speaking, still alive?
No. He's late now. He was the finance. He was appointed finance minister, Mr. General Moyo.
No, he's late.
He's late now. He died of COVID. But now the situation was tense within the ZANU PF camp. You know, succession wrangles, and the army said, we just have to move in to abate the situation. At least we lose lives. But now in Zambia, you only have two people who died as a result of political fights here and there. We've seen others from the other camp also dying.
That's the question that we need to ask.
So now, is the situation so bad such that we should get to the point where the army should be told, go and defend the security, or go and protect the lives of people? Already, you've quoted from the Constitution that is a mandate of the Zambia police and not of the army, because now, the army is to protect the sovereignty.
That's a very difficult question. I'll tell you something which should be food for thought for all of us as a country. A decision to call or summon the army is only said to be legitimate, okay, when what they have been called for has been done properly, okay? Because the manner in which they are going to work may not be premised on the law. It will be premised maybe on the chain of command, based on the way the situation shall dictate. So it is very difficult for me to give a conclusive answer as to whether the calling in of the army will be in good faith or not. In any other democracy where the army has come in, they are said to have done well only after what they have been called for has been executed.
Right.
When they are done with the work, that's when you say, oh, they meant well. Right now it's very difficult. We will be expecting for too much. The only message that we need to perhaps give the people of Zambia is that they should take the military personnel as normal Zambians, because those military personnel that are coming are also parents where they're coming from. They have children that want to go to school. Right. They are also facing economic realities as you are. They are buying the price, the bag of minimum at the same price as you are doing. They are also going through the serious economic hardships of having to take a child to the university and the University of Zambia and pay more money than what one would spend in some Chinese universities. So they are going through all that. So based on what is happening in the country, we are sharing the same challenges as the country. They have been sharing load shedding, because for the first time I think you've seen that some military camps have been load shedded. We were covering those houses that were constructed in Lusaka West, is it Mumbwa, for the defense force, which have had no water for many, many months, if not years, okay? And because those people cannot say anything, by virtue of what they saw to uphold, they cannot speak, complain publicly. They are supposed to simply keep quiet and wait for certain things to be done. It's only you and I who can, speak for them, okay? So, you have had those instances. And what that means also, which you need to take note of, Kalani, is that bringing in the military means an extra budget. Because there should be now money allocated to those operations. You've seen when police officers are conducting operations, those vehicles they drive around do not move on oxygen.
But already the police officers we are helping with security during the issuance of mobile NRCs, voters cards, and so forth. Those who left their families to go and camp in the bush, they're already complaining that they haven't been paid their money up to today. Right?
Yeah, those are the challenges.
We have messages of them crying to us to say, but we've not yet been paid our allowances.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, and I know that there are issues of what we call if you promise them that this particular job that you are going to do is over and above, because by law, if they work within the prescription of their duties, there are no payments. But when they work over and above, there should be something, because these are human beings we are dealing with. Police officers are fellow human beings just like any other person, so that we don't need to abuse them. Okay? Now, I think to nail it, what we are saying is that it is difficult to know what President Edgar Lungu is doing. In simpler terms, that's what I'm trying to say. The only time that we would know what the military have come to do is after they've done whatever they've been taught to do. That's when we would know that, okay, the military meant well. Now, that said, the idea is not to instill fear in fellow civilians, but to remind fellow civilians that we have a democratic process of bringing in a leader. And that is by the ballot. Now, if that be the case, take military personnel as your brothers and sisters. Go out and vote. Do not fear. They are not coming to kill you. Okay? In any case, it would turn into something if at all they started stopping people from voting. Because this is a trend that we have seen from the cadres, where they would vote by 10 hours. Afterwards, you saw it in Chilanga. It was in the afternoon, they came wielding, branching guns and so on. Civilians scampered. They had no assistance. Police officers could not contain the situation. So that is where now people are saying, now, don't you think, given that type of example you've given, we would need military personnel? While we may say yes, it can also be a no. Because what they would do afterwards, nobody knows. Whether they will defend the interests of the republic or they will be subordinate to civilian authority. So, if they will be subordinate to civilian authority, as the Constitution provides, then I want to remind my brothers and sisters who are going to vote that as far as the Constitution is concerned, the military and the police are subordinate to your authority. Okay? Because this Constitution is made by yourselves. That's why we start as we the people of Zambia. Okay? And we read also in one part of the Constitution, it is categorical. Article 5, 1. The sovereign authority vests in the people of Zambia. Okay? That is what the Constitution says. You can actually finish. Which may be exercised directly or through elected or appointed representatives or institutions. So the sovereign authority vests in the people of Zambia. And the defense and national security services must be subordinate to civilian authority.
Right.
Now that is a very serious principle which we have to remind men and women in uniform that whatever you do under the circumstances must be in the interest of the civilians.
I repeat, not in the interest
Of a
an
political
individual or a political
No.
party.
In the interest of the civilians. If the civilians shall say,
But you must also understand that the army, just like the police, they work under instructions and they pay allegiance to the government of the day and the commander-in-chief who gives them.
no, I'm reading their functions. So their functions and also the principles.
We've read all that. Mark,
Yes.
I take you back to Sesheke, where we saw the men and women in uniform were trying to protect life, protect property, and of course protect the interest of majority citizens. And when they perform their professional functions, what happened to them?
They are sacked.
They were all sacked. That's what we are trying to say.
Now, let me say this.
All right?
Let me say this. These men and women in uniform are subordinate to the president as commander-in-chief of the armed forces to carry out only legal orders, not illegal orders. It's as simple as that. Simply put, to carry out legal orders, not illegal orders. If that order is fighting one of the principles, it is partisan in nature, it becomes an illegal order. If that particular order allows or intends to allow a military personnel to act against a political interest, then it is an illegal order. So basically, that is why I thought I needed to read the principles of the defense forces and national
Let's just go
security
through some
services.
messages,
Thank
Mark. Of course, Boniface Ngando says, Celestino Mwene says this government is a sham of a government. And of course, Boniface Ngandu, Detambila Livingstone, Mola Mulonda says, good evening, Mr. Mark and Mr. Kalani, watching within Lusaka. Victor Muteka says, watching from Itesteji. We are breathing the same air, I should think so. Kasongo says, watching from Chilabombwe. Obedience Chiyangi, watching you from Kasempa. And of course, Rosina Mumba says she's also watching within Lusaka. Ovid Actions, Dara Martin, and of course, Peter Malupenga says, which platform are you? People, DSTV or Topstar, please help us. Please, we need this TV grow bigger. Thank you so much. God willing, we are looking into that. And of course, Salim Andrew says, Lewis wa Munyima Kandele, Kelvin Kasongo. Once Kelvin Kasongo, our main prayer is to see PF goals, and most of them given long jail terms. And of course, Regan says, watching you from Lusaka, my question to Mr. Mark Simue is that, does that mean the police now have stopped protecting citizens? Instead, they have resorted to block HH, cause I have heard that Mutalina Lumango was attached today. Where is the police? It goes back to the statement you issued, Mark, where you say, now the police are the one breaking the law instead of protecting the very people that they're supposed to protect.
With that type of question, let me go to the Electoral Process Act.
And I'll end here for now. You can respond to that.
Yes.
Or as you are looking for it, should I continue reading the messages?
Yes, continue reading the messages. I'm trying to get the particular
as Mark is getting that one, let me continue. Godwin Hatembo says, already crying. Was crying.
Okay, let me read section 1 and later on look at the duties of the police under the Electoral Process Act.
Right.
Note that in the Electoral Process Act, which is the principal act which regulates and manages the electoral process, there is no military. That's the first thing that we need to understand. For obvious reasons, that voting is not a military exercise. Okay? Let me mention that it is a democratic exercise. Okay? And a civic exercise. So, this takes me to the duties of Zambia Police because of that message that I need to respond to. Section 6 of the Electoral Code of Conduct provides, and I quote, the Zambia Police Service shall A. enforce law and order at campaign meetings and processions in order to maintain peace and order, not stopping. The next one is B. ensure that police officers do not abuse their authority or government resources to campaign for the benefit of any political party or candidate. So that is what they are doing there. They are basically campaigning for the ruling party by stopping one political party in order to give political advantage to the other one. Then C. refrain from disrupting any campaign rally. Police officers shall refrain from disrupting any campaign rally or meeting which is legally convened by any political party. The law is very clear. Then D. Police shall ensure that police officers do not use their office to oppress any political party, candidate or supporter. Do I need to add anything like that? Now, I told you that if you have a law enforcer as a lawbreaker, then you have a lot to fear as a country. Because now, there is a question of who is going to protect the law.
I keep wondering, I keep asking questions. On one hand, yes, we agree that this is a president who's also a presidential candidate in a competition, in this case an election.
It's because we have a bad law,
but
we have a bad constitution.
You find there are thousands of them offering security to Mr. Edgar Chagwalungu, all right, presidential candidate for PF. On the other hand, they will come in thousands where HH is with tankers like we saw in Kasama with water cannons, you know, trying to disperse people with water, with tear gas. Now, when they go in their numbers, where HH is,
so
they are not going there to offer security or provide security like they are doing for Mr. Lungu.
No,
but they're now going to disrupt.
First of all, the first thing that we need to also qualify is that under the Constitution of Zambia, President Lungu, even if he is a candidate, is a president of the Republic of Zambia, a substantive office bearer, whose power, okay, comes to an end when the president-elect is sworn in. Okay?
Correct. That, now, we can't take away that from him.
Let me mention one very important point. The next point I want to state is now, this exposes how the worst part of the constitution that we have. Under normal circumstances, for us to have free, fair, and credible elections, what was supposed to happen is that the moment Parliament dissolves, we could have a situation where the people that are participating in politics should not control state organs and institutions such as the Zambia Police Service, the army, and all those things. Unless where there is a state of emergency or there is a national disaster where the president has to recall Parliament. Now, the challenge that we have right now is that if we were serious with the type of constitution we have, we would have a situation where the Chief Justice takes over. With the moment Parliament is dissolved, Chief Justice takes over until the next person comes in, so that there is a level playing field. Now, the very fact that police have to protect the president, Edgar Lungu, that is within the law. That's fine. The fact that if he wants, he can actually have some military personnel to protect him. Okay? That is fine. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But what are the consequences of the circumstances under which we are? There is abuse because it is difficult now, not even very difficult, but at what point is President Edgar Lungu playing his role as president and also playing his role as a candidate campaigning to garner votes? You find that it's difficult to draw a line as long as we are in a political atmosphere. Now, because of that, it means whatever the president is going to be doing will give him political advantage. He's going around and then he says he's going to view projects. He's going there to parade candidates whom he is endorsing. So you find that because of this particular bad law, we have the president now abusing.
Yeah. I mean, what we've seen from Mopani Copper Mines is exactly what you're saying.
Correct, that's what I'm trying to say.
Already parading people.
He's going to
offer
meet people.
solidarity.
Then others are going to offer solidarity. Does he need solidarity? For what? What has he done for solidarity? Now, let me explain. Section
Mark,
1.
We are in our dying minutes of the
Let
program.
me read this
but
because of the comment from the
we are in our dying
viewers.
minutes, Mark. We're supposed to end already. It's 2 minutes to go. We're supposed to end this program at 21:25 because we started at 20:25.
Correct.
There's one fear mark again, which people keep asking: the voters register. We are hearing rumors that there are no.
No, we are reading on social media.
Of course.
Zambian Watchdog and others.
Now, there are these fears of rigging, Mark. You know, the voters register seems to have a lot of this, that. Have you come across
manipulations? I have not looked at it, but assuming that what is on social media is correct, then the ECZ must be held accountable. Because what is going to happen is that you have a situation where most of those people will be locked up after the election. You saw it in Malawi. You saw it in Malawi, where electoral officers were being locked up for abuse of public office. Now, this is what they should know, that elections are a gamble. Even amid obvious rigging, manipulation, it is still a gamble. On one platform, I did mention that even rigging does not mean you have to stuff votes. You can rig by defranchising people. People will go there and bounce and say, no, your name there is K instead of C. Then you're bounced, you'll not be allowed to vote. People can be defranchised in that manner. And people can still sue, but if the effect is marginal or insignificant, it becomes very difficult for even an election to be nullified because it will be too late. And as history has demonstrated in this country, once someone is declared a winner, you forget. That's it. You should not even think about petition, even if you do all those things. We've seen already the technicalities that come alongside petitions.
Right.
Now,
I agree, 100%.
Let me conclude on this call by mentioning that, assuming what is being published now is correct, then ECZ workers must be held accountable. We can actually indict all of them so they explain the legalities. Because that's a crime. Do you know the implication of doing such a thing? It is treason to fail to bring in a leader using other means other than the due process of the law. It is treasonable. Okay? You can have all of them locked up.
Right.
And this is the message that they should get.
Right.
I'll talk about rigging also. That rigging is theft of an election. Now, a thief is not always successful. I've mentioned that.
Right.
That is how rigging is. It's a gamble. A thief is not always successful. If
Yes,
all thieves were
because-
successful, if all thieves were successful, we are not going to be having convicted ones in this correctional facility.
Right.
And to demonstrate that a thief is not always successful, some of them were caught. Atubushikusheme.
Chimbala Chirocha.
I end here.
Right. As we conclude, Mark, some more messages coming in. As Joseph Kanyemba says, I'm watching you from Chongwe. Enjoying your program. Kanyemba Joseph here. Thank you so much. Cliff Thomas says, watching from Mamba. Why is it that the Deputy IG is issuing very good instructions to the Zambia Police Service as they were sent to different parts, but does the opposite on the ground? Watching you from Lusaka, that is Mangusu Wasilota. Obedience once again, please explain for me again which powers does Nkanduluo uses, because I have seen her having a bunch of police officers wherever she travels. These concerns keep coming through. We've received concerns of that nature. Probably, Mark, is she entitled to state security
No,
at any point?
I don't think so, because I think what is for state security, if you are talking about civilians generally, okay, you are a civilian and you are having a gun.
Kanduluo is the running mate of
Is a running
President
mate.
Edgar Lungu.
Now, if he's going to be getting state security like that, that is again abuse of statutory institutions like the Zambia Police Service. Okay, but that does not mean that she does not need police presence. Now, I think the problem is that, whereas the state security are present for the opposition, to only stop them from campaigning, they are present for the other one who is the running mate to provide security.
Right.
I think that is now a problem.
Okay, somebody was is
Exactly.
asking, Mangusu is asking, at what point should a president seize power?
When the president elect is Sonny,
Right.
I should have referred to the law.
Yoram says the army must be neutral and not disadvantage the opposition, cause there is likely wind of change. Watching. Peter Malpenga Katete, watch Peter Malpenga here, that's what he's saying. Watching from Ibex Hill, that's Shimu Konka Macmillan. Thank you so much, Macmillan. Patrick Mubiana is watching from Mumbwa. And of course, Progress Mali is watching from Munali constituency.
Read more, and I wanted
Right.
to see if so I've answered. I wanted to get an article, but from the Constitution. So I said that at what point does it? What was the question?
Seize power. At what point does the president seize power?
Yeah, I said when the president-elect is Sonny.
Right.
Exactly. That's when he seizes power. So I wanted to refer to a particular article. Now, in the interest of time, we
Okay, I think as we are looking for that, there's one interesting piece that Sean Tembo brought out. He says in this election, I see two things happening. All right? Are you with me, Mark?
What did he say?
Sean Tembo was saying, in this election, I see two things happening. One, PF losing power but refusing to hand over the instruments of power to a president-elect.
Who said that?
That's Sean Tembo.
Okay.
Right.
The president
His
sent
statement was in view of two people dying in Kanyama and the president deploying the army. It is connected. Then the other issue, according to him, he sees, another problem he sees after these elections, is that the UPND may lose this election, but refuse to concede defeat, and war may break out. Probably I've used a stronger term, war, but chaos may break out in this country.
What did he use himself? I shan't tell you.
I want to end it there, Mark. I want to put it that way, that's what he's saying. PF losing power, but refusing to hand over power. Or the UPND losing but refusing to accept or concede defeat. Do you see any possibility?
Look, I think I need to make it very clear. Those are expected situations, but I think we need to make it very clear. If I go by President Sean Tembo's observation, which is also has a right to a political opinion as prescribed under Section 1.
By the way, Sean Tembo is also a presidential candidate.
That's what I'm saying, that is actually free to express his opinion as prescribed by Section 1 of the Electoral Code of Conduct. I must mention that if such a thing happened, then it is a serious indictment on the work of the defense service, the defense force, and the national security services, who have been told to ensure that they are subordinate to civilian authority. The civilian authority is that Zambians have to make a decision. Now that decision, when it is announced by statutory bodies, by ECZ, should not be fraudulent. Mostly, a decision is only rejected if it is fraudulent. Okay? Or where elections have been stolen. Because now the justice system, under the circumstances, of which partly I would agree with Mr. Sean Tembo, the justice system now has a question mark because of the way they handled the presidential petition. Where the matter is not heard, you throw it out. Okay? After misleading the litigants. The court misleads the litigants and says the issue of computation of time will be dealt with. Then the judge flip-flops, changes that say, no, actually, the days come to an end this day. Then before you could realize, the dissenting judgments start arising. So because of that history, I would agree with President Sean. But God forbid that the country should experience such kind of violence. My prayer is that let us go for pause peacefully. ECZ must help the country deliver a free, fair, and credible election. I think instead of us focusing on what the consequences of this election would be, we should focus much on putting more pressure on ECZ itself. So, meaning the burden now is on the ECZ to deliver free, fair, and credible elections. I want to rephrase what Mr. Sean Tembo has indicated, that in the absence of ECZ doing what is right, what he says is possible. So in other words, the people that are likely to determine the situation in the country is ECZ. It's as simple as that.
Right. Whatever goes up must always come down. We've come to the end of the governance program of the Munati Television for today. Make a date with us again next week. My name is Kalani. On behalf of Mark, it's only 6 days remaining before all of us would go to queue up and vote for our preferred candidates. Now, go out there. Don't be scared. Wake up in the morning. Go and cast your vote. When you see the army, don't treat them like enemies. Treat them, like Mark said, as your brothers and sisters who are there to ensure that peace prevails. May God bless you all, and good night.
Mnati. Meaning something sweet.
Munati, your TV Hondego.
Catch us anywhere, anytime, as long as you have a device and internet.
Mnati TV is Zambia's first internet TV station.
And internet is just not in Zambia, meaning Mnati TV cuts across all borders with viewers all the way from USA, Botswana, South Africa, the UK, and world over.
Internet is the future.
And the future is now.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to Mnati.
Your TV on the go.
Sizophepha kanjani kulezi ziphepho? Sizophola kanjani kulama nxeba abhibhidlayo? Nguwe Nkosi simakade isiphephelo sethu. Wena ulidwalela yethu. Sizwe Nkosi usisize. Sizwe Nkosi usisize.
The winds and the waves shall obey my will. Peace, 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 still.
Yes, you should just claim peace, 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 still. You better trust and obey. Just believe God is in control. Yes, sir. He says the peace, 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 still.
Nkosi sengathi ungavuka usisindise thina ngokunganguwe nosomandla onakho ukusisiza
Uyalalela umoya
Tholanya uyalalela umoya Tholanya uthina
Somandla kayihambeki indlela imnyama okomgodo ngolamkhawulo. Awukufa khona kufihliza santando komuntu. Imitsha yabhuqe ibhuquza santando phezukwethu. Inkengane layo idla ubhedu iminyaka iselemana. Amadolonki intolo amandla kithi du. Nkosi soba yini thina? Soba yini thina sizosila kanjani kulezi zikomazi? Sizophepha kanjani na kula malanga? Sizophola kanjani kula manxeba abhibhidla? Sisize Nkosi. Sisize Nkosi.
Through it all, yes, the winds. Jesus just says peace. Understand his word stands true. Oh yes,